Erin has read The Fire of a Preacher, and that was very impressive. Are there any more handouts you should get on? My name again is Leslie Lockett, professor in the English department. And the first short selection I want to read is not terribly literary, but it's a very interesting historical artifact. At certain times in certain places in Anglo-Saxon England, monks followed the Benedictine rule. And one of the prescriptions was that they keep silent a lot of the time. Well, how are they going to get their business done in silence? How would they even navigate, the refectory or get the right books out of the church? There were sets of sign language that were written up and prescribed in Latin, and then somebody in the later 10th or early 11th century adapted these into Old English. So this is the interactive part of today's Read Aloud, because what I'm going to do is to read a few of these signs in Old English and show you what they looked like, or what we assume they look like. And if you want to try and guess what they are, just don't follow the translation, and you can check back in a minute. The heading at the beginning of this document says, "These are the signs that are to be used in the monastery and observed diligently with God's help, where it is desired to keep silence according to the command of the rule." It's the rule of St. Benedict. The fifth one that is prescribed is, "Thas maestras takenes, that shield bewat, that man set his tweeën fingers on his twa øyne and hebe up his little finger." Number 7. If þú ert á kyrkjan tekanvila, þannig då þú með þínum tveim handum swilcher þú bellan ringa, and sette þína skjútfinger til þína múða, and hinna síðan uppræð. Kind of reminds me after Albert Pujols hits a home run, and he, does the kisses to heaven thing. Number 12. If þú whilst lang wirpe bok haban willa, þannig stretcher þú þína winsplan hand and weigh he, and sette þína swirplan over þína winsplan bever a bok a lenja. Now, you would ask for a book according to its size, because you didn't want to do charades to sort of act out the title of the book, and books were often stored according to size, so this could at least narrow down which shelf you wanted a book off of. So for a big book or a little bitty book, as long as it's rectangular. Number 26. If þú candlestickan haban willa, þannig blá þú an þínum skjútfingra and have þína hand samlokna switcher þú candlestaff haba. This one makes good sense. Like so. Numbers 47 and 48 gives you some, it's interesting to see what they thought was important enough to have signs for. If þú hierda haban willa, þannig weia þína fist swilcher þú swinjan willa. Þannig þú swipa haban willa, þannig weia þú þína fist, swaswa way before on quairon, and raru þína twaia fingers. So 2 kinds of things to hit people with. Number 59. If they lack a liste, þannig dó þú með þínum fingra swilcher þú borja in on þína hand, and dó brauja þína hand til þín pranazan. Switcher þú quite distinche. Leeks, of course, are very pungent and sort of, grow like carrots do in the ground, like roots. And finally, þannig þú choose a haban willa, sette þannig þína twa handa together, bralinga, swilcher þú ringan willa. I think this is very interesting, because when we get cheese, wrapped up in the supermarket, we don't think about how it's made, but of course, cheese was made by setting it to harden in a sieve-like container and then being pressed. So a kind of food that you would have to press would narrow it down considerably to cheese, something that 1,000 years ago people were, I think, a little bit more aware of than we are. All right, that's all for the sign language. I've got a couple of riddles that I'd like to read, so since I didn't put the solutions on your handout, this continues to be slightly interactive. I'm going to skip the first one. It's a little bit long. But let me read the second one to you in Old English, and you can follow the translation. I'll see if anyone has any ideas when I'm finished as to what this might be. This, by the way, is in poetry. The translation you have is printed in prose form, but you can hear the alliteration and the rhythm again, as you heard with the poems that were read earlier. Ich da wichtig sehr wachnet kinnes, joguth mir vergreidi, him on gavel forlate, fair fridende farewell land, shire scherpen, on je shep felten. Mon mavelade, said the me je seide, sehr wicht, je feel je dieth, duna breacher. You've had to birsteth, bindeth quitcher. Does anyone have any ideas what this sort of obscure riddle might point to? Do the four white fountains give anyone any ideas?
Horse.
Sorry?
Horse.
Why do you say a horse?
Weapon-bearing sword. Four legs.
Oh, sure. Interesting that this wapidkinnis just means of the male gender. This is sort of it's an allusion to the male genitalia, the whole wapidkinnis thing. The gender that had the race that has a weapon on its body. And this is frequently used of both human and non-human and even plant organisms. This is actually a bull calf, and the four white fountains are the teats of its mother dispensing milk. The closing two lines say, if it lives, it's going to end up breaking up the soil. It's going to end up pulling a plow. But if it dies, it will be used to bind the living. That is, it'll be turned into leather that makes, belts and thongs and various things that hold people's clothes on or bind people's hands or whatever. Let me read the last one to you in Old English. Ich wunderliche Richt, wie man hichte, nährboenden niet. Nani on sheve borg sittendra, nymphe bonan anna. Stavel min is sterk her, stonde ich on bedde, nervan ruch natwer. Never quilum full chirten o chelis dochter, mor wonk meure, that her on mech grippeth, razet mech on vrelden, revet min hever, feet mech on fasten. Feet sona minus jumotus, serve mech nervat, we've wunden lock, wat bith that eia. It's a very suggestive riddle. I should give credit where credit is due. It was Karen's idea to read this one. Any ideas? Or are people too abashed to say? Shame on you. It's about an onion. Her eye will be wet. Anyway. That was, if you were thinking what the poem most obviously suggests, then you fell right into the trap of the poet. And this was a common theme among the later Anglo-Saxon riddles, that it comes out sounding like something much dirtier than it actually is intended to be. There's a similar one about a key going into a lock and about dough rising up and being covered by the kitchen girl's apron when it swells. Anyway, our last speaker today is Lisa Kiser. She comes over